Hello and welcome. This time I want to show you a little DIY I made the other day for a dear friend of mine who is starting out with watercolors, and I wanted to share my collection of papers with her. So I made a custom sketchbook with a collection of papers that I have at home and which I really like. First I made a list with all the papers, the brands and what kind of paper it is, also the weight and whether it is rough or hot pressed or cold pressed paper, so she has an overview on what papers are in the sketchbook. My orientation and size were the tiniest of the sheets, which was the Fabriano watercolor paper, and here I cut it down a little bit to size, and this is what I do with all the sheets. Some of them are a tiny bit smaller in size because otherwise I would have spent or lost so much of the sheet. I hope she doesn't mind, but this way I could put in more of the watercolor paper. Here you can see me cut down all the sheets into in the size that I want for the sketchbook. I try to have as little leftovers as possible, and I label all the watercolors, the first page at least, so I know which one it is in the sketchbook. Of course, I also cut down the overview of the papers. This will be my first sheet in the sketchbook. The numbers of the papers I have written down in pencil, so they are easy to erase for her. This index is printed only on printer paper and is not special at all. It's the paper I use for basically everything in this office. I mean at home. Here I check the sizes and whether they lie flat. Here I have a leftover cardboard. It's the backing of one of the sketchbooks or watercolor pads that I have and used up, where I mark the size of the cover that I would need, and I cut it down by using a cutter and, which is even more important, a mat to protect my working surface. Sorry if you see my knitting needle on the side there. I had some knitting projects on the side while I was making the sketchbook too. The important thing when using a cutter to cut down the cardboard is of course a metal ruler. Do not even try this with a plastic one. The cutter will just cut into the ruler and you won't be happy with the results. This project is something for my crafty heart. I like to craft, and as you can see I also have pattern paper on hand. Here I just use another ruler and the cover to see how big I have to cut down the paper to wrap it around the cover. Of course, I want it to look nice and clean, and so pattern paper is just the right thing. I use some strong glue to glue the cover to the pattern paper. It's important to have the glue, especially on the sides, to make sure that it's holding up the best way possible. I cover the covers in glue and put it on the paper. it's important to press it down a little. Then I bend over the edges of the pattern paper towards the inside to cover the sides of the cardboard too. This way I make sure that the creases are clean and perfect for the size of the cardboard. I have to cut away the squares, but if you do that, make sure that there's still 1 or 2 millimeters left from the edge of from the corner of the cardboard, so the paper covers it completely. Otherwise, you will have a little gap there, and that's not something you want. I have a lot of experience with that, and that's why I cut it freehand, like in freestyle. With a little glue and some clamps, I glue the flaps over into the inside. For me, this is the easiest binding method, I know, but you may use something else. As you will see soon, I use a binding machine to put everything together because, well, it's what I have. It was a wonderful gift from my partner a few years ago, and I've used it to make many sketchbooks since. There's even another video on this channel from when I just started making videos, how I made another one. Here you can see both covers. I check whether the size is great, whether it fits together nicely, and I'll leave it to dry. After, I have cut down some smaller pieces of pattern paper to cover the inside of the covers. Here is the binding machine that I have, and it works really nice. It's pretty easy to use because it's made for crafters. It doesn't need a lot of strength to be used, and is not really tricky, to be honest. But it does the work well. It's also not that big in size, so you have to calculate a little if you want to bind bigger sheets. I've cut down the binding wire to the size I need for the sketchbook. And here you can see me put it all together and put it all onto the binding wire. Of course, I had to use little stacks when I made the holes through it, but it worked really well. On the other side of the machine there is a thing to help you bend the wire so it closes. This works really well as well, although you sometimes have to check the sizes a little and whether it's fully closed. Sorry for my tea picking into the video there. I will link the machine down below. I know there are two versions, one that makes square holes and the other one makes round ones, and I'm not sure whether both are still available, but I will look for it. The papers that I used were different ones, and there will be a close-up of the index soon, so you can check them out. I might also link them down below in the description box. These are student as well as artist grade watercolor papers, but all of them I enjoyed or enjoy using a lot. My favorites though are in the back there. I really enjoy the Fabriano paper the most from all of them. Here you can see me going through the pages a little bit more, and this is how the finished sketchbook looks. I hope so much that she enjoys it. Thank you for being here. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!